Hello and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I am your co host, Annie Morell.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Saylor. This week we'll be talking about Lynne Ramsay's third film, We Need to Talk About Kevin. We made the joke last week that we need to talk about Kevin, but I'm making it again now. Here's a clip.
Yeah, you can be kind of harsh sometimes.
You're one to talk.
Yeah, I am. Wonder where I got it.
Just a few things before we start, a few little trigger warnings. We are going to be talking about a school shooting, violence against children, abuse. It's a very heavy movie, so if you're not into that, maybe skip out on this one. But yeah, so this was my first watch. This was not your first watch of this film. What did you think?
Right. So I saw it back early college, and at the time I don't think I really was into it as an artistic expression or anything like that. I think I just kind of watched it because it was making waves, and I actually distinctly remember when someone was talking about the film, hyping it up in college. They were saying, there's the kid's so crazy. There's this scene where he's masturbating and his mom comes in and he just keeps masturbating, and so I don't think I was really in any kind of the right headspace to artistically analyze this film, at least when I last saw it. But honestly, I think I might have liked it more than I will talk about
Wow.
as we get to it.
Even though I haven't seen it before, I do have a really weirdly distinct memory because it's based on a novel, and I grew up going to a lot of used book sales. My parents are both really big bibliophiles, and I remember, I was into adult fiction. I was probably like 12, and I remember reading the back of this book and being like, wow, that sounds really depressing and sad. I don't think I want to read that. It's a faithful adaptation, I think, in that way.
Well, yeah, so the book is actually epistolary in nature, meaning that it's all letters.
Oh, geez. Whose letters?
Right. So in the novel, Tilda Swinton's character, the mom, is writing to her husband, and I did read a tiny bit of the book just to kind of get the feel for it. But I was unclear on when she's writing these in relation to her husband dying. Or full spoiler podcast. Should have mentioned that earlier. But
I mean, if you're a dedicated listener, you've already heard us say
right. So yes, I'm unsure if she's just writing these as some sort of therapeutic exercise, or if the book begins when they're estranged, or what. But yeah, I did think that was an interesting element, is that the book is purely told in that way, whereas the film is it's still, I wouldn't go as far as say stream of consciousness, but it's more flashback and flash forward than maybe a traditional film. Although I'd pretty easily say it's the most accessible of her films so far, at least. Do you agree with that?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, definitely still very tonally similar.
Sure.
Subject matter, but I would say so. And I think, I don't know if we're talking specifically American audiences, but it is always easier. I had to put subtitles on for Morven Caller as well. And so I feel like it's accessible in that way. And I mean, it's a very American topic in a lot of ways, school shootings.
Sure. Wow. That's what a miserable sentence. We're going to, before we get too into that, we actually get the privilege of doing a little feedback segment this week. We did get a fan, maybe fan's too strong a word, but we got response from the last episode. So we can dive into that now. If you want your comments read on a future episode, feel free to connect with us at our various social media platforms. We have Instagram and TikTok at retro_sin, CIN. We're not into debauchery. And our email is retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com. This comment actually comes from YouTube, which was in and of itself quite funny because I thought I had failed to upload to YouTube. So this notification actually served to tell me that we were on YouTube, which was very exciting. I won't read the full comment because we actually got pretty expensive thoughts from this listener. But one thing that she said that I thought was insightful, we were talking last week, if you remember, about Samantha Morton playing Morven Keller and perhaps being a little old for the role. And this listener writes, the casting of Samantha Morton also makes sense with her background of abuse and growing up in care. I just watched this interview where she talks about her own childhood, saying that she didn't know that the traumatic events that happened to her were traumatic. She was just being. To me, this film feels like that. So yeah, thank you to Sally Pilkington, 1361, for writing in, and feel free to continue, or, you know, if you're jealous of the fame that we've just given this user, feel free to put your comments in as well.
Yeah, I really appreciated that comment. I think it's interesting when an actor and director's past really inform the film in that way, and the performances. So yeah,
Sure.
thanks Sally. But on to this week's movie, we need to talk about Kevin. And I guess a brief flashback to the very first of her films, Ratcatcher, because we start again with
Another
a shot of white
opening.
curtains
Yep.
billowing. I thought you would also catch that since we talked about it so extensively in our first episode. And then like a really quick switch to this like very striking, ostensibly bloody crowd, which I did look this up, is the La Tomatina in Spain. It's the tomato festival.
Okay. I'm so glad you looked it up because I was very curious about what I perceived to be the gore parade. I was like, what is going on here?
And just such an effective bit of foreshadowing there.
Sure.
With I mean, I pretty much clocked them as tomatoes. You have obviously this crowd that is very like joyful, so it isn't actually carnage, but it does have all the like visual trappings of mass carnage.
Yeah, the series of opening moments are pretty great, and they're all back to back to back, and we get that curtain shot again. Although I think I did like it a little more in Ratcatcher because of the child in there, and we discussed that all. Feel free to check out our previous episode. But I very much liked that overhead shot at the festival, and then right after that we get Tilda Swinton's character roaming around the house, and she kicks the heck out of a table, and has what should be the universal experience of stubbing your toe, but she's seemingly so numb that she does not feel it, and that's all our tone setting scenes.
Yeah, and I will say, jumping very quickly back to the crowd scene, because Tilda Swinton's character Eva is there among the crowd, and they actually do lift her up like very cross-like she's carried on the crowd at one point. And I would like to talk more about that later, but just want to point that out now. Yeah, she's really good at setting the scene, setting the scene and tone of a film.
Yeah, I agree.
And lots of red in this movie. Just
yes,
an obscene amount of red, if I'm being honest.
I did have a number of problems with this film, and we'll get through them. But one of the first ones was there's this moment early on during the more dreamy, almost stream of consciousness opening series of scenes where they're driving, and I think the cameraman just like saw a red tree, and so the camera whips to it real quick, and it doesn't do anything, and I was just like, all right, I get it, we like red, can we keep going here?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy-handed. I agree. Too heavy-handed, probably.
but that's okay. Right around the beginning. So I do have an actual point here, but I should preface it with, um, did you believe for a moment that the love child of Tilda Swinton and John C. Reilly could create Ezra Miller?
I mean, I think, we have a lot of like flashes of Tilda Swinton and Ezra Miller back to back throughout the movie.
I'm getting there.
And I think they're both severe. I don't think he looks anything like John C. Reilly.
I have the theory and absolutely no source, and that's for the best. I don't want to know if I'm right. But I have the theory that the amount of scenes of them flashing back and forth, and specifically the sex scene that leads to a shot of cellular mitosis, like the absolute moment of conception, are all just in this film so that the audience has to be like, okay, this must really be their child. Because without all of that, I think my fan theory would have been that she had an affair.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't disagree with you that is, because that was never a thought that I had, that like, well, maybe it's not their kid. Either, she cheated or it's a hospital swap situation. But that jet black hair, they really gave them the exact same hairstyle as well.
Yep. That's what they have.
Just I think heavy-handed is the phrase I'll be using the most throughout this review. Yeah. I do. I was like, I get it. They're they're related. They're the same. I think a little bit after, I'm just kind of going chronologically now.
Sure.
We have that like awful first scene in the prison, or the juvenile detention center or whatever it is, because he's not in adult prison yet. We learn, but our like introduction to the teen Ezra Miller, is him like biting off his fingernails one by one. Just
so
like
good.
Oh yeah, it was very effective. Just awful sound, awful visual. Really, just this immediately sets this kid up to be a bad dude.
Which, yeah, we might as well get that elephant out of the room. Ezra Miller does incredible here. Say what you will, but I honestly think they put in the best performance of this film, and part of that genuinely maybe, as we would learn a decade down the line, that they are not the best person. So it's worth acknowledging up front that we can both celebrate a performance and be very aware that Ezra Miller themselves is also not great.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately there are a lot of examples throughout some really great films of terrible people giving really great performances, and they're definitely in that category now, because it is, I mean, it's such a disturbing, unnerving performance throughout. I don't want to say cartoonish because I think that sounds almost insulting, but I mean, I had my theory for Morvern that she was a sociopath, and I mean, I think Kevin is definitely in that territory.
Yeah, and we'll get into analyzing Kevin's psyche, because I think that is the single most interesting element of the work. But first, on Ezra Miller, I went back out of my own curiosity. I just Googled Ezra Miller crimes after watching this film, and wondered if you had time for a bit of a game called, I'm naming, Did Ezra Miller Do That?
Oh no.
In which I will list things that Ezra Miller allegedly did, well, or I'll say something else, and you need to decide if Ezra Miller, parentheses allegedly, did that.
Okay. Okay, I can do this. I really haven't read about them in a while, so
Okay.
we'll see how this goes.
Okay, starting pretty easy. Did Ezra Miller claim to be the Messiah to an indigenous group of people?
I think allegedly, yes.
That is allegedly
I
true.
feel like all of them are just going to be true, but I'm at some point going to hit a breaking point where I have to guess false, but we'll see.
All right, allegedly, did Ezra Miller groom a 12-year-old?
Allegedly, I believe so.
That is
That's the bad
allegedly
one.
true.
That's the really bad
Yeah,
one.
that one's not good. But allegedly, did Ezra Miller burglarize a Vermont home and steal, quote, several bottles of alcohol?
Oh man. See again, I'm in the trap. I'm gonna say also yes.
Yep, they were all true. Ezra Miller.
They were all true. Oh.
I've only scratched the surface. If you ever want a banger, you want to be interesting at a party, just pull up
yeah,
the
no.
timeline. Anyway, back to the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kind of next stage is we get a flashback to Eva as a pregnant lady, and then a young mother, and there's this a shot I really appreciated was when she's giving birth. It's the reflection. You see her in the reflection of some kind of round object in the delivery room, and she's super distorted. She looks like a monster. Excellent. Excellent foreshadowing again, Lynne. And then we kind of cut to her really struggling as a young mom, just not able to soothe her child, and then seemingly John C. Reilly just either has the magic touch or it happens to walk in just as the baby is calmed down. So begins his gaslighting of her that
Well, okay,
Kevin is a super chill guy.
Kevin's a super chill guy. I have to ask you something that colors the entire film and affects kind of just all of it. So up front, how much of this film did you perceive to be real, or that the events are being accurately told?
Oh wow. I think to be honest, I just kind of took it all at face value.
Okay.
And I think I know why you're asking that, especially now knowing that the novel is through letters, because then it's very much through maybe an unreliable narrator in Eva's case. What did you obviously had a different take?
So back when I watched this in college, absolutely, I did the exact same thing. I just took the film as it was. This time, I think it was around the Halloween scene where I started to really wonder if Eva was sane, I guess. There were so many moments where it just seemed like there was no way that really happened. Even early on we get that moment where someone punches her in the face outside a market, and it could hypothetically happen, but I was just really, did this woman really say all that, really? And so thinking about that scene with Kevin as a baby screaming forever, eventually getting drowned out by the power tool, which I thought was a great touch.
Oh.
But then the second that Franklin is holding Kevin, everything's wonderful. That kind of moment, I mean, that's very human to be like, oh, he never cries when you hold him, that kind of thing. It's something we all do, even if we maybe not kids, but or maybe you don't have kids, I'm saying, but when you're driving, you're always like, that next lane's going so fast, and then you go over there and you're like, I take it back. So
the grass is always greener,
right. Yeah, exactly. So as we start to think about those scenes, I that's something I really wanted to question and consider.
I think that definitely makes sense, because even though I don't think it's a telling where she looks like a good mother, which you would maybe think would be like an unreliable narrator's take on it, it does, there are these extreme moments, and there are these kind of surreal moments, like you referenced the Halloween sequence where she's like driving, and I mean, there's just little to no chance that actually happened, where that many people were kind of coming at her car. And yeah, so that is, I mean, I think too often with movies versus books, I tend to focus on, or just because it's, I can see it with my eyes, you know, so you think it's the truth, unless it's, you know, like obviously if there's like some sort of voiceover narrator, then I take it differently. But yeah, I like that take, and I think it maybe makes me like the movie a bit more, seeing it through that lens.
Okay.
I get more into that.
I maybe got too wrapped into whether she was the unreliable narrator or not, because it did begin to affect even scenes where I think I was supposed to just take it in, especially once we get to the shooting. Feels like even the wrong phrasing because it's a bow and arrow, but I guess you still shoot a bow and arrow. But school killings of some kind, I just was logistically so confused about how this went down.
Me too.
I know he seals like the alternate entrances so that everyone coming into the room is stuck. I get that, but and like, unless bro's Hawkeye from the Avengers, I just don't understand how he managed to take out everyone. And he does, because when he finally is caught, you know, he gives himself up. Like, no one has subdued him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I agree that it is kind of, when you try to break it down of like, how do you accomplish this with a longbow? And in the book, apparently, I did read that it is a crossbow, which I think maybe makes a little more sense. So my understanding was it was like a pep rally, basically. So everybody was in the gym. And yeah, like logistically, if there are not only like teens who are of comparable strength to him, but like potentially a gym teacher, like there's not one adult that could like take this kid down.
Yeah.
And like where, yeah, and then you have that, which, you know, maybe this goes toward your point of it not being reality, but you have that kind of shot that I guess could also be a prep shot of him bowing to the auditorium, bowing to the gym, with his bow. And to me, I took that to be the end. You know, you bow at the end of a performance, and yet the gym was completely spotless and empty.
Yeah, so that I couldn't tell. I wondered if they had chose to abstain from showing any of the actual violence of the act in order to be tasteful. But because the film, I guess that's what I'm talking about, because I spent so much of the film wondering what was or wasn't reality. Yeah, once we got very surreal and artful for this horrific climactic act, it seemed more obstructive to me than anything.
I mean, you did have the shots of, I think it was very selective showings of the carnage. You had the shots of
after
students on the gurneys,
right.
And then I mean, truly, even seeing, biggest spoiler of the movie, Franklin and Celia's bodies.
Yeah, that was horrible.
You can really, that, I think that fills in a lot of the picture for me. So I actually appreciated that choice to not show, well, to show the prep. Like I liked, because it's just as sinister to me to see him putting those by Glocks
right
on the doors, as it would be to seeing him actually commit the act. And I do, on the longbow subject, I initially was like, oh, that's a really interesting choice to choose not a gun,
right?
Because then I think to me it took away, it's like, well, this is not either way like a comment on gun violence. We're gonna take that like out of the equation entirely. I think that feels like a very specific choice by the author of the
Mm.
novel. But yeah, it's really hard to then have that like realism of like, how
Right.
could you have done this?
Yeah, and Lynne Ramsay does get a lot out of the bow. I mean, we referenced the montage, but the moment early on when he first gets his like suction cup arrows and fires it at the window, and you get the shot looking at Eva all the way through, you know, the targets in his eyes. It's used enough and well that it's forgivable that the climax doesn't logistically make sense, but I did find myself having to suspend my disbelief at probably the most important moment of the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Still rough,
Sure.
even if it's unbelievable, because it is, and maybe that was the intention. It is such an unbelievable act.
Yeah.
In a very different way. And you have her, one of the last shots of her just being absolutely shocked that, like, she's searching for her son,
Right.
in the crowd, and he just walks out unharmed, and she knows.
Yeah, well, she knows once she sees the bike lock.
Oh, yes, that's true. Oh, and I did like that reveal as well, where you kind of had the weird, like, they had that shot of her seeing the bike lock, but not the bike lock itself near the beginning of the movie. And then the reveal of, like, what she's looking at, and it's the bike lock. There are bits of this movie that I really, really like.
Right. No, me too. And on that note, the curtain that we referenced earlier, once you get the context of why that image stays with her, like that's a very good choice. Things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a great, like, kind of bookend and moment of suspense for the audience at the end. Because I don't know. I will be honest, I hadn't even thought that he had also killed his father and his sister.
Yeah.
Which is silly because of who he is and is shown to be throughout the movie. But, like, that was a big, like, jaw-dropping moment for me, because I just thought, even this guy can't be that cruel.
Yeah.
Especially to his dad, who, like,
right,
was kind of the only person he ever showed any, and I think maybe you can argue it was affection showed in order to kind of further torture his mother. There's just nothing left at the end for her, and her worst fate is still being around, of course.
I'm curious what you got of his dynamics with his dad. I think the most interesting moment to me is that when he's sick as a kid, in that moment he wants his mom instead of his dad, and that's the only time it flips. And I don't really understand why or what that means, unless it's literally saying that at his basis level that's who he was, but he just had to resist that all the time. But then I don't quite understand why.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I have a better interpretation than that. For 1 second, to be honest, I thought, oh no, are we going in a Munchausen by proxy situation where she's going to realize that keeping him sick means he likes her? But that did not happen, thank goodness, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's maybe a signaling that, like, even someone as twisted as Kevin, at their basest, they do still, like, need their mother. I'm not sure. That would be my best interpretation. And yeah, the kind of turn to the dad, or turn away from the dad in that moment. I'm not 100% sure what to make of that.
Yeah, well, while you're talking about it, it actually helped me, I think, just hearing it from someone else, because there's a scene right around then. We played the clip from the mini golf, but after that they go out to dinner, and he does a sort of monologue about what his mom was planning on doing with that night. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, that scene played like a cry for help. Like, he ultimately does open the conversation there for his mom to say, okay, yeah, that is where I was at. we don't have this relationship. What can we do? But instead she's silent. So I wonder if, yeah, maybe in the depths of him, he did desire that.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of moments like that. When he's a bit younger, there's that exchange in her room with the maps where she says, you can make your room like reflect your personality to him. And he says, what personality?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another cry for help. It's like he doesn't have an identity because he's just such an angry, like he's a kid who needs help. And that is ultimately like what do you do with a child you can't handle? You get him help.
Right.
And I think that to me is kind of where I really can't forgive her character, because I get that it's clearly like he's a very difficult child, but I think it's in a day and age where it is appropriate to seek help. And she does kind of do that. Like she takes him to the doctor when he's mute, I guess, or hasn't started talking yet. And she's like concerned that he might be autistic. And the doctor's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with him. And then she kind of just takes that and never addresses it again.
Yeah, she does. You're right that she does get that checkup. She obviously takes him to the doctor when she breaks his arm. But by, I don't know, by any number of points in this film, psychiatry therapy should have been on the table. And I guess they reference that he was strung out on some antidepressant.
Mm-hmm.
Does that imply that she then did get him help at some point?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Prozac, I believe. And
right.
I think that does make sense because I mean, most kids have regular checkups, so I'm sure at some point that kind of personality or behavior or temperament is like hard to hide. And maybe she did seek help, but again, it's like drugs was the help. Like there wasn't accompanying therapy, it doesn't appear.
Sure.
I think that would be in the movie if the drugs had been accompanied by therapy. But yeah, it's this kind of, I don't know, like she's acting like she's trying, but she's not really trying as a mom, because I think she ultimately didn't want a child. Is how I interpreted her character.
Yeah, we actually, on that note, there's a very interesting moment. So earlier in the film, at one point, Kevin begins to, they say create a language. I don't think it's that powerful. He just goes like meh 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 a bunch, and that really annoys her, like to the point that it's something she consistently complains about. But then later we see that with her daughter, her daughter actually does the same thing, and it's a trait that she likes. She sings it back to her, so to speak. So I don't know that it was, I do wonder if it's not that she didn't want a child. I wonder if it's that she didn't want a boy.
Oh, interesting. I almost think it's that she didn't want a child and then she had a child anyway. Or maybe she was willing to have a child and sacrifice, her world travels if the child loved her. And she didn't, I think early on she decided that Kevin didn't love her. And so she didn't love him. And then I'm sure from his point of view, it's like, well, my mom doesn't like me. Like, I think he even says something like that at one point.
Yeah, he says you're used to me.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you like me. Oh, so yeah, I think it's this kind of catch-22 where like, and maybe it's also by comparison of like, well, because you have that little sequence too during Christmas where Kevin gets the newest longbow, and Celia is wrapping like a ribbon around her mom, being a kid. Maybe that's annoying sometimes, but she's like, she likes it. And I think it's because Celia is doing it like out of love. And I think most of the early actions we see from Kevin, the ball scene where she's trying to get him to pass this red ball back to her. And just that child actor cast perfectly.
Oh, so good.
Wow. The meanest looking toddler I've ever seen. Yeah. It's like he wants to punish her. He wants to hurt her. is like kind of how, but you know, that's how kids are. Kids are changeable. But I think, and maybe this goes toward your point of like, this is from her point of view, like she is taking it all so personally.
Right.
And so as like, well, this is who he is, rather than like, well, kids are kids and they're changeable, like that.
Yeah, and I thought that both made the messaging of the film more interesting, but also clouded the messaging a bit to me. And I wondered what you thought. Because at face value, the film is simply an analysis of, you know, the bad egg child that was always cruel and grows up to do this horrible act. But as we've discussed more and more, I think it becomes clear that this kid, you know, has like is abnormal in certain ways. Obviously, the, you know, diapers much past when he should have been, and such like stuff like that does seem vindictive is odd, but at the same time he is doing a lot of things that are just kid things, and then they're all taken to their extreme because of Eva's response, and then eventually he does this act. So obviously the question of nature versus nurture isn't a new one, but what do you think the film's saying about that? Do you think the film is saying that he could have been just a normal kid given a different mother, or, you know?
No, I actually think
okay.
so. I think what I took from specifically the wonder where I got it scene that we played at the very start is that it's nature and nurture. I think it's who she is as a person, the way that she nurtured him, and, you know, how DNA is passed. I think that combination, I think to me, it's almost like her perception of him is that he is like all the worst parts of her. And so, yeah, that's why I think it's nature and nurture, which, you know, is my personal view as well. Like, I do agree that it is a combination, because, yeah, I think it's very clear that he has psychological problems, but as we've said, you know, no one did very much to try to help him with those. They're very clear, and yet she just takes it all so insultingly and personally, and doesn't act like a parent. Yeah, what did you think the film was saying about
I
nature?
think that's fair. I like what you're saying. I'm not sure the film wants to give a hard opinion, which might have been another thing that held me back from it. And obviously just starting the conversation is in and of itself interesting, but you do have, I guess my experience watching the film boiled down to, okay, we're going to see how this horrible thing happened. So this kid, who is he? Like, what did he do? And then throughout the film realizing that there was this other element that his mom, you know, maybe could have done better. Maybe that would have changed things. And then right at the end, you know, he kills his dad too. So then that is a person that tried and showed him kindness, and then that felt to me like the film then saying, no, it didn't matter, he was always going to do this, which confused me on why we even spent all this time then with the mom and all the things that she messed up on. So I think that's what I mean when I'm saying it got cloudy, is I'm unsure what the film thinks, and I think ultimately it undermines its own message.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think to your point too, yeah, Celia kind of throws a wrench in that, because then, like, yeah, she seems like a great mom to Celia and seems to care a good deal about her, but she's also not. She doesn't seem to really have psychological problems. She seems like pretty typical, like an easy child. So yeah, it is kind of a muddled message, because then it's like, well, so it wasn't her fault, because I truly believe that, like, I don't know, that she is kind of responsible.
Yeah, she certainly didn't help. Yeah, and maybe it's a bigger punishment to force her to live with nothing left, and, you know, everyone hate her. But I just don't. I really struggle to believe that a 13, 14-year-old could come up with that level of vindictiveness as a in response to being raised a certain way. And I guess that's where, if we're saying that he did do this, yeah, I go back to, okay, then the film thought he would have done this all along. But
I think it's an escalation to the scene with the ball. Like the whole movie is this gradual escalation between the two of them, between a mother and her son, where he does return the ball to her, and then she's like, cool, do it again, yay, like we finally did it, we're making progress. And you can see in that kid's eyes, that incredible child actor's eyes, of just like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Like very conniving, even at a young age, maybe not really understanding exactly why, but like taking pleasure in getting a reaction from his mother.
Right.
Because who knows, like maybe that's the only attention that's the attention that he's been receiving, is all this like negative attention. So I think he learns at a very young age to seek negative reactions from his mother. And like, unfortunately, I think that is the worst thing he possibly could have done to her. So yeah, my answer is escalation from there.
Okay, I like that. I you are helping me for sure. I'm enjoying the movie more as we talk about it.
Wow.
We'll see if you can save the next one, because I hated this moment. There's a moment in the film where we get essentially a fourth wall break. I think in movie, she's watching security footage or something, but essentially Kevin turns to the camera and says, you, the audience, wouldn't have watched this if I was just a good student. The scene?
Yeah, I'm not going to try to save that moment to you. I was
okay, thank goodness.
Confused. I agree. I kind of forgot about that. I don't even think I wrote anything down, because I just kind of thought like, well, they're going to expand upon this idea somehow and it's going to make more sense. And then just nothing else like that happened in the rest of the movie. It wasn't, I agree. I didn't like it, and I thought it felt very like shoehorned in, like we want to get this take from Kevin and we don't really know how to put it in the context of the movie, so we're just going to have her watching it on TV.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, maybe my experience would have been different if I, came from just watching. I don't even know what it expects its audience to be watching, but I it's supposed to be this convicting moment, and I'm like, my favorite film of last year was a movie about a guy that cleans toilets. Like, who are you talking to? Because it's not me.
So interesting, because I remember you said for Ratcatcher you were like, this is my kind of movie, but not that this is. I think this is radically different in a lot of ways, but
I guess when I was talking about that with Ratcatcher, I like to be challenged by a film. I don't like to be condescended upon, I guess.
Wow. Going back really quick to, because you said that you didn't think he's 15, by the way. He's about to turn 16.
Okay. Oh, yes, because it's 2 years and then he's 17. That adds up.
Yeah, and there's that brief moment where she's like, this line, I was like, all right, buddy. He's about to turn 16. She says that to him, and she's like, oh, we should do something next week to celebrate your birthday. And he's like, oh, I might be tied up by then. Like, come on, man.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was
which I suppose signals that it's like very premeditated, but you know what else signals that it's premeditated? Ordering the bike locks. Like, again, a very heavy-handed, unnecessarily, maybe also signals that he really is just a total sociopath, psychopath, somewhere in that range.
A generous reading of that is that there were such clear signs that his parents ignored, and that does feed back to moments earlier in the film. But yeah, there were that, and that certainly was a moment where it's like, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he's almost 16, and I do think that he has the kind of insidious machinations within him at this point to dream up this kind of severe punishment, the ultimate severe punishment for his mother, because you go back to him figuring out that the power dynamic has shifted, or rather shifting the power dynamic by lying to Franklin, to his dad, about how his arm got broken. Because he realizes, he's that conniving. He realizes, oh, if I say that this wasn't mom, then I have something on her. And she has to
Yeah, it's okay.
So I don't know. I think the groundwork is laid for him to be that insidious.
I guess maybe if it just went a little less perfectly, like the, oh, you're getting tried as a minor. Like, I don't know. I haven't read every crime ever, but I feel like anything this heinous, they just ignore that.
Yeah, what jury? I was surprised when they said that he was in juvenile prison, because I just assumed that he would be tried as an adult, because, he's not incredibly young, and the heinousness of the crime. I feel like I do know a little more about like how the courts work, and that didn't really fully add up to me. But who knows, if he's this like cartoonishly evil character, then I suppose that's just the next con, is getting people to like take pity on you. Who knows? We don't see the trial. Who knows how he acted?
Sure.
We know he's very good at playing innocent, as we saw with his like switch in character whenever his dad would come home.
Certainly. Yeah, my favorite of that, and great moment, is when the hamster gerbil, whatever
Guinea pig
has been killed.
Clearly a guinea pig.
Guinea pig. I'm sorry. I only had so many options that I still didn't get it right. And Eva looks out the window, and he is totally in character as this like loving son, and then just for a moment he like acknowledges her knowing, and then like goes back to it. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I agree. What a terrible guy. I keep coming back to that, I know.
One random plot thread that I had in my notes that I was curious if I just missed something entirely. Eva became a published author that has book sightings in one moment of the film.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, that really was so out of the blue, because I was kind of like, well, don't give her a job. Like, she doesn't need to we don't need to know what she does. It doesn't matter what she does. She's a mom. That's the most important thing in the context of the story. Yeah, and it was so weird. It was just another maybe like comparison of the two of them, because you had the daughter go like, "Oh, it's Kevin."
Right.
And then the first thing you see is her big face. And then you realize like Kevin is standing there. But yeah, I guess I was like, okay, well, that makes sense why she's like home all the time. She's like not going to an office. And maybe why people felt even more like they could just accost her on the street, because she was somewhat of a public figure.
I appreciate
I don't know.
that.
I don't know why I'm going to bat for this movie. I didn't like. I don't think I loved it particularly more than you.
Okay. Oh, I guess the one element that I did want to talk about as I go through my notes with the guinea pig death, I had to. In my notes, I just wrote hamster and nothing else, so that was good of me.
Insulting.
Did you have a guinea pig growing up?
I didn't. I'm just. I'm sure they want to be called by their proper name.
We don't actually see that she puts the bleach back that ultimately is poured into the daughter's eyes. I actually liked that there's a possibility that Kevin didn't do that one.
Is there? Because I feel like there was a moment where he acknowledged that, and maybe he was just toying with her, but you have that moment right after where Celia's home, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go shoot my arrows. And he's like, oh, Celia, you want to come grab arrows for me? Keeps the ambiguity, because it's either him torturing because he did do it, or him torturing her because he didn't.
Well, I guess what it most adds to if he didn't is when she is saying, you know, you shouldn't blame himself. Like, she's forcing herself to say that because clearly her husband has asked her to. Like, I thought it was great if he genuinely didn't do it, and he's just like, yeah, I don't blame myself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and maybe she left it out and he got the idea from it too, was kind of how I interpreted it. So I agree. I like that it's open to interpretation. I think my view of it is that at that point, he's done so many other things that I really do believe that he probably did that too. Because he's there's another moment of violence with the sister earlier on.
He vacuums her hair.
Yeah. So I think that's another like kind of foundational moment to, and then he does kill her.
Well,
too.
yeah,
like,
you know, there's that one.
There is that one. Oh boy. Like I said at the start, I'm so excited for us to talk about something that's not this depressing. Like, I know we have one more. I hope
it's a downer.
That movie. Well, yeah, I'm assuming.
But I went back to my ratings and I gave You Were Never Really Here an 8 out of 10 when I saw it. So at least at the time I loved it. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, this one. Oh man. I knew it was gonna be a rough watch, obviously because of the subject matter.
But as I gotta do. Do you recommend the film?
Oh man, it's so hard. It's a movie about an ongoing issue that was made in 2011. I don't know if I can. I think especially, you know, you add Ezra Miller, they give a great performance, but they are also terrible. Tilda Swinton, big fan of Tilda Swinton. Everyone gives great performances. It's well made in some ways. There are some choices.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the very strange pop music throughout the movie that irked me.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
I probably would tell people to skip this one and again
watch Morven Keller.
Watch Morven again. Yeah, you're in agreement. Really, spoiler. Ryan did not like this.
You picked up on that.
Could not tell.
Yeah,
I'm intuitive.
Yeah, I did not connect with this film. I think its messaging is confused. I think its surrealism is silly. There are moments of greatness there. Honestly, Ezra Miller's performance does a lot to elevate this film. So many line readings are basically perfect. It's unfortunate that they may have had skin in the game, so to speak. No, I don't recommend the film. I think there's enough artistic merit that if you're doing something like this where you're doing a retrospective on her cinema, it's worthwhile to check in. But no, I don't think this is the one.
What a shame. We were on such a roll. Single movie
roll. We found a banger in Morven Keller, so.
Wow. Well, it'll be what a ride it's been so far with Lynne. And I'm excited to check out her most recent one.
Sure.
You Were Never Really Here next week.
Yeah, another 7 years. We didn't even talk about that, but between Morven Keller and we need to talk about Kevin, that's a 9-year gap. And there's reason for that. She was set to direct Lovely Bones, and then it fell through.
Oh, jeez. She really has a specific subject matter. She loves it.
I've not seen Lovely Bones nor know anything about it, but I can infer.
And watch the movie.
And then this film took forever to get made because of budgeting issues and all kinds of problems. But yeah, then there was another. This was 2011. It's not till 2018 that You Were Never Really Here comes out. And then 2025 is Die My Love. So there you go. We won't get to that one in 2 weeks because it's not out yet, but we'll come back to it when it does come out.
Yeah. I will be excited to come back to a director after we've stewed for a bit. Yeah. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram at retro_sin. That's CIN. And our email is at retrospectivepodcast cinemapodcast@gmail.com. Please let us know your thoughts on this movie if you watched it, if you've seen it before. Would love to have people agree with us. I would love to hear other takes.
Yeah. Or if you have insights. And on that note, if you leave a comment on YouTube, apparently I get them. So feel free to do that as well. Until next time, we'll see you in a week. Happy watching.